Latino Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Rich Simmons, Chair of the Commission. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. Staff then presents the staff reports. We will then ask for public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as your presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly for the record. If you are here to speak for or against the project, because your time will be limited to 3 minutes. Take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes goes by too sweet, pretty quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based upon the city ordinance, Chapter 27 of the City Zoning Code, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, design review comments, and the testimony given here today at the public hearing. The BLC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence your cell phones. And we'll start with the introduction of my other commissioners, starting on my left, please.
Liz Welch.
Good morning, I'm Lee Nguyen.
Good morning, I'm Jose Jala.
And from city staff today, we have Dennis Fernandez, Ron Vila, Beverly Juzak, and from city legal, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel. Okay, in our packets, we have the minutes from last month, Tuesday, February 22nd. We've had a chance to review them. If there's any comments or corrections, please bring that up. Otherwise,
Motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, March 22nd, 2022.
Second.
okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So they'll be stand as read by unanimous consent. Mr. Fernandez, any announcements?
Good morning, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Just a couple brief announcements. First of all, I do have the last month's administrative approvals, which I'll enter into the record and provide to the clerk. Secondly, you will notice your agenda this morning is titled Revised Final Agenda. We did redistribute some cases on the agenda to balance them out. We will be having a special public hearing on March 29th, a week from today, at 9 a.m. We'll have 3 cases on the agenda then. When we get to continuations this morning, you'll be continuing 3 cases as well. With that, I did let you know that we do have limited time this morning, so I think we'll get started.
Very good. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the Commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding any of the items that are on the agenda? Additionally, will the Commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are on the agenda? No? Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you. We have 3 continuations in front of us. BLC 22-13/REZ 21-114, BLC 22-000033, BLC 22-0035. Those will be continued to the March 29th public hearing. We have a motion.
No, actually, excuse me, Mr. Chair. The first case, BLC 22-13/REZ 21-114, will be continued to the April 26, 2022 public hearing. So that needs to be a separate motion from the other 2 cases.
All right. So motion to continue BLC 22-13, REZ 21-114 to the April 26, 2022 public hearing.
Second.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
And motion to move BLC 22-33 and BLC 22-35 to the March 29th, 2022 public hearing.
Second. You just say it for 9 a.m.
Oh, for 9 a.m.
All in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation.
Hold on. Beverly? Swear in first.
So everybody that wishes to testify, please stand up and raise your right hand, including staff, to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll be providing this morning is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. At this time, we're ready to move forward with our first case, which is BLC 22-76 for the address of 1205 East 15th Avenue. Currently, it's a vacant parcel. Attached to the parcel is the zoning of YC2. The request in front of you this morning is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a duplex with site improvements. Moving to the photo presentation. On your monitor, this is the Sanborn Map dating back to 1929. Property that we're going to review this morning is in this green parcel here. It does face 15th Avenue. As a point of reference, you have Michigan, which was listed in 1929, which is now Columbus Drive, to the north. To the west, you have 12th Street. And then all of this fabric here that you see is the interstate currently today that will show up on a series of photos that I'm going to show you now. There is an alley that runs behind the property that will be part of this project moving forward for the vehicular access into the site. Once again, this is the current overhead. Property in question is highlighted in the green. It does face 15th Avenue. It is just one parcel in from the corner of 12th Street and 15th. The alley is still an open alley, as I referred to, and then you see the current condition here with some of the fabric removed and the interstate coming in place. About 15 years ago, there was a contributing structure here that burnt to the ground. All that was left was a retaining wall that does have a granite curbing, has a little parkway, has the sidewalk, and then the retaining wall with the steps left behind. Just a close-up of the steps leading up. And just another shot looking from the side, just showing, once again, the environment here with the street, the curbing, the parkway, the sidewalk, and then the retaining wall. This is the property to the west. Does have a little retaining wall as well, and this is a contributing structure. This is a non-contributing structure to the east. You see the environment has that separation from the public space to the private space with a retaining wall. Some street shots. There is some parallel parking on the street. This is looking down 15th Avenue to the east. Turning around to the west. This is 12th Street. And then you see the environment here as well as you see the separation from the street with a parkway on both sides of the street. This is a contributing structure directly across the street to the north. And a series of photos showing the alley. This is a 10-foot platted alley. We're in the process right now of getting the homeowner that erected this fence to move it 1 foot over onto their property. The setback is in violation because it is in the alley by 1 foot. And this is the other direction. This is out to 12th Street, showing the alley is drivable. Transportation has looked at this. And for single family and duplexes, they do not have to do any modifications to the alley. And this is the last shot just showing the fence in question. At this time, we have the agent and owner that could present to the board.
Good morning. My name is Dontavius Pittman. I am the agent and owner and builder for this project for 1205 East 15th Avenue. I'm just going to present the documents in question. So here is our demo plan and site plan. We plan to remove the current concrete steps that are existing now. And we also plan to extend the current retaining wall to the new path, which is projected here on the site plan. The building is going to be 3.5 feet from the east sight line, and we're going to have a pathway to the left. Parking is going to be to the rear, as Ron Vila stated, and the vehicular access is going to be in the alley. Are there any questions before I proceed? Okay. Next here are the elevations, and I mean, we're really just trying to connect with the historic fabric that's there already. So we're going to use 6-inch hardy plank siding. We're going to use round columns. Our piers here are going to be 18 inches wide. The columns are going to be 10 inches in diameter. The windows that we're going to be using here are reminiscent of historic fabric, which are going to be 3x5 on the front facade. Here's our window detail showing a 6-inch trim board, 3-inch crown, 2-inch wood sill, a railing detail here showing how we're going to be constructing the rails. Column wrap detail, so it's going to be a 6x6 post. There's going to be a fiberglass column that wraps that post. These columns here and here, and this detail here is just showing a soffit detail, which is going to include our exposed rafters and the 24-inch overhang. This is a floor plan. This detail is just honestly the average setback for the block is about 18 feet 8 inches. What we're going to do with our property here is going to be 20 feet, around 20 feet 1 inch. Sorry. And here's a wall section just showing the details of our exterior wall. These are going to be aluminum clad windows, like everything else that's going on in the area. Gel wind sightline windows, 6-inch hardy siding. The elevation for our building will be 24 inches above grade. And again, it's just showing the exposed rafters in the 24-inch overhang. And that completes the presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff for Historic Preservation. Staff's finding that the application is complete with the Ybor City Design Guidelines with the additional information provided at this public hearing. On page 3 of your staff report, we have some bullet items of additional conditions and details that should be expressed at this hearing. Just discuss a little bit more the condition of the retaining wall and your solution, your long-term solution there with the materials and the cap that's going to be provided. Okay. The scoring of the concrete as the walkway coming into the property, and then the transition from the alley to your pad. There is a module that it should be respected on the walkway coming from the sidewalk. It's usually a 3x3 or a smaller module, and then on the back on the parking pad, a 5x5 is traditionally accepted in the historic district. As he goes through his wall section, just take a little bit of time to start with the ridge, walk down all your materials from the ridge all the way to the foundation. If there's going to be any fencing indicated on this parcel, the height of the fence, the material of the fence, the location of the fence, and the design of the fence should be discussed at the hearing. We had talked about moving the entrance. All the parking is to the rear, and he has a pedestrian path down one of the side, and he's engaged some steps into the side porch. So the owners have the ability to enter from that side approach, or they could come down the ceremonial entrance with the main entrance. He has increased the overhangs to 24 inches as discussed. The final stucco solution is usually decided on site. We work with his contractors to provide different examples on site, and then we come up with something as period appropriate for this request. We talked about the window operation on the east and the west. It seems like some of the windows were eliminated. The windows orientation was very important in the early 20s for the flow of air prior to air condition in there. So the window placement should be discussed as well this morning. And to discuss the front yard setback, I think you stated it. I might have missed it. If it's less than 10, a design exception is required. If it's at 10 or beyond, then no design exception is required if this receives final approval. I went through the staff report pretty thoroughly. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Duval. Is anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this case? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move forward. We'll start with asking questions of the applicant. I'll start with you, Mr.
Sure. Hi, thank you. Appreciate you coming before the board with this project. I just want some clarity because I heard that you're going to remove the existing historic steps, but you are maintaining the retention wall?
Yes, so the retaining wall is going to remain. I'm going to have to extend it to be adjacent with the new path proposed. But yeah, the retaining wall is going to remain. The steps are going to be removed.
Okay, and I imagine it looks like from the site plan you centered the new project to orient towards the existing opening in the retention wall. Is that correct? The new stoop of the porch lines up?
Close enough, yes. It's almost centered with the existing steps that were there.
Is it going to require modifying the existing retaining wall?
No, so the modifications are only going to be, so the steps are wide. They're about 10, 11 feet wide. And the new path there is about 8 feet wide. So we're just going to have to extend the wall by pouring concrete. Yeah.
And then just following up on some points from the notes,
Mm-hmm.
staff notes, what is the size of the fascia board? Because on the drawings, it did appear scaled, minimally scaled, and not what you would normally find in the historic neighborhoods.
Okay, the fascia board is a 1x6.
1x6.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just one more question. I think I heard you say that the windows are 3/5.
36 by 60. Most of them are.
So 3/5 means what?
No, 3 feet wide, 60 inches
Oh,
tall.
okay. I thought
Yeah.
you meant the division.
No, I said 3 by 5. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I didn't understand.
My apologies.
They're not divided lights in any way.
No.
Okay, because that's what appeared on the drawing. Thank you. No further questions.
Did you mention that the setback for this current design is further back than the rest of the adjacent properties? And why is that?
No, so the adjacent properties on average there it's 18 feet 8 inches, but 1203 is 14 feet 8 inches, 1207 is about 25 feet 3 inches. So we're kind of
variability. All right, got it. Okay, thanks for that clarification. And so with this new path and retaining wall, so I think I can kind of barely make out. So you say a 2-foot high wall as sort of the path comes in from, as you're entering the house.
Yes.
And as you turn right. So there will be a 2-foot wall. So that path is below the rest of the grade, or is there a slope somewhere along the path as you kind of move along the site?
The path is going to be on grade. We're going to have to slope it towards the street, but it's not going to be a huge slope.
Okay, so then the only wall is sort of that wall just south of the property line there where that retaining wall is?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So I have... And then, so would there be any fencing on the property as well?
We haven't proposed any fencing.
Okay. And then could you pull up your elevations?
Yes.
And so then for the piers and columns you have at the front, was there a reference detail, or were there references for those that you were going to use, or is there an enlargement of them that we can kind of see, or anything like that?
Yes, so I have a cut sheet for that column. There are columns in the area that are round, especially the house across the street, they're using round columns, which are about 10 inches diameter. Let me pull up the detail for you. And reference is just, it's going to be a round shaft column. 10 inches wide with the basin cap.
Okay, thank you. And then can we go back to the elevations once again real fast? And then so for, what am I? So for the east elevation there, it looks like, so that larger, is that the 3x5 window there? Is that a fixed window as opposed to the windows at the opening, which are probably looks like they're single hung or something
Correct.
like that?
Yes.
Is there a reason that can't be a single hung window as well?
Yeah, it can be a single hung.
Okay.
Yeah. If that's the recommendation, I'm not here to fight.
All right, great. That's all my questions for now.
I don't think I have any questions. Mine were asked by the others.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to the, let's start off with the site plan, please. And you're, just as a reference, it's very difficult to read your printouts. Like a lot of the text gets a little muddy.
I have them 11 by 17 if you guys.
Well, I mean, if you're using the Elmo there, it's fine. Just it's kind of tough to read that out. So there's a 35-inch oak tree over there and a 10-inch oak tree. Are you two 10-inch oak trees on your property? So that's kind of, I think that's why you shifted over to the right-hand side.
Yes.
You're going to be able to get that through, like the sidewalk through there. I guess it doesn't encroach on those trees. You're not proposing to remove any trees.
Correct. Yeah. So, per my conversation with Natural Resources, we only have to be about 3 to 4 feet away from the trunk of that tree.
Sure.
And so we're in the clear. We don't have to remove any
Okay.
trees.
So no trees are getting removed.
Correct.
Okay. So when you come through on the retaining wall, you're using the existing opening in that retaining wall, but that's going to be flush with the sidewalk as you walk through, right?
Yes.
So then you get to the steps, and you're going to go up 2 feet, whatever that height is above, and then you've got the stairs on the side there. So that retaining wall, you've got a 2-foot high wall. How is that going to work with the existing retaining wall? Because I think you've got the wall here. You're coming through at grade. Then I don't know if I don't understand why you have that 2-foot high wall there. Are you banking up the earth there?
The 2-foot high retaining wall?
Yeah.
That's currently there.
Oh, that note applies to that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's actually, I'm sorry, it's a note from my survey, so, yeah.
I see the arrow now. Okay, I see the line, sort of. I don't really see the line, but I know what you're doing. Okay. So that opening is now 8 foot.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's currently like 12 foot, so you're just infilling some of that retaining wall.
Correct.
What's the treatment on that? Because I noticed that wall looks like it might have some stucco. It was painted. It was block, maybe concrete. Oh, well, it had brick. So are you going to go back with brick? Or?
No, I'll re-stucco. It's stucco now.
Right.
I'll re-stucco it to match.
Well, the opening when you go in looks like there's brick there, but you're just going to cover that up. Okay, and infill that. Okay.
The brick is from the steps.
Okay. And you have your parking in the back, which is excellent. I think we've added that side stair to get onto that covered porch. Okay. Let's go to the elevations, please. All right, so the front elevation, the north elevation, looks a little, what's the head height of your doors there?
8 feet.
8 feet, so all your top of your windows are going to be at 8 feet.
Yes, sir.
It just tends to look a little squatty on the second floor. It's almost like the rafters need to be raised up a little bit more to clear those windows. So I think we're going to kind of push you to maybe add another course or something like that. Like get that up a little bit higher, separates the trim from the windows. On that second floor, I think it just looks a little too squatty. So maybe raise it up about 8 inches.
Would you recommend dropping the head height for the windows?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so. We're going to get to the windows in a minute, though. But I think everything else looks pretty good here. Let's talk about your columns or stucco smooth finish and the base of the columns down on the first floor. What's going to happen at the stucco band between the two columns? Is that stucco as well?
The concrete, the cap.
The base, the pediment, the 2 foot before you get the finished floor level.
Oh yeah, stucco.
Okay, are we going to differentiate that?
I didn't plan on it, but I mean, if I need to, then yeah, I can add fenestration to it.
Okay. Let's go zoom out a little bit and let's go to the side elevations.
Thank you.
Okay. I think here, let's look at all the elevations if we could zoom out a little bit. Okay, so on the front and rear elevations, you have 1/1 windows, so they're operable windows. But when you get to the side, they're single pane, non-operable. I think we're going to recommend that all the windows be 1/1, and then it's going to have the proper sash in there and the separation there. So
okay.
We'll make sure you're okay with that further on. Now, when we're continuing on the base elevations, is there any separation or piers? I don't see any in that pediment, or are you just going to deal with that as a continuous base?
Continuous.
Okay. Roofing. We call it a shingle roof with exposed rafter tails. I don't see any gutters or downspouts. You're not going to have any. It's going to be like a just drip edge.
Yeah, drip edge.
Okay. Okay, and I think staff asked you to comment on what you're going to do for the concrete scoring. They recommended a 3x3 for the sidewalk and a 5x5 for the parking space.
Yes.
Are you okay with that?
Yes. It's actually shown on the site plan now. So the scoring here is 3x3 on the. Well, it's actually 2x2 on the 4-foot wide walk space per conversation. And yes, I'll show the 5x5 on the parking and on the front path because it's so wide. Okay. 4x4 on.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of these things. I think we've kind of flushed out most of the major issues. I think everything else we kind of worked out with staff when you get to the finishes. Sure, of course.
Just a couple quick questions from the notes. The porch appears to be about 2 feet off the ground. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then I notice you have handrails for the stoops that you're introducing. Would that be actually required? Because historically in the neighborhood, with a low porch like that, if the code doesn't require side rails, then it looks a lot more compatible to the neighborhood. Is that an option?
Yeah, they can be eliminated.
Okay. And then also one of the notes from staff asked, what is the material for the ceilings on both porches?
I'm using a beadboard on the ceilings.
So painted beadboard?
Yes.
And that's a wood product?
No, it's actually a vinyl product.
Okay. And then one final question in regards to the placement of the windows. As noted by staff, we're trying to replicate some of the patterns that are seen within the historic district. In addition to the comment already made about being 1/1s, on the trying to figure out what elevation. The elevation on the top right of my drawing.
East.
East.
Yep.
Okay, the east elevation. The placement that I find most problematic are those 2 large windows that are so close to the front porch. I believe that's just a bedroom. Traditionally, the windows would have been sort of placed further away from the corners because they were designed for cross ventilation, as mentioned. So I'm just wondering if you have the ability to move those further away from the corner to replicate a more historically compatible pattern.
If we can, I'm going to place the floor plan.
Sure. Yeah, it looks like you're able to. And you still would have a bed wall opposite. So I realize that windows affects the placement of furniture, but that's often what happens in these, in the historic houses.
Okay, so are you suggesting that it shifts, like adjacent to the closet, or?
Probably in the middle of the room or just further off the corners.
Okay.
Transparent corners aren't a feature of the historic, just that's a more kind of modern pattern.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think a general comment there too is like the front windows look a little bit close there. You
Yes.
know, I'd say that maybe their space, like on the rear elevation, your windows are well centered within those bays. On the front, you're trying to get a lot of windows in there. I'd say at least have at least 2 feet from the edge of the window to the corner of the building. If you're looking at them,
If it's possible, you may even want to group the windows into a pair of windows, which would be very historically appropriate, and add a little bit of variety to the front elevation too. And we can talk about that in the design part, but just wanted to clarify that it's possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, any other questions? Okay, you have a few moments. If you've heard our discussion, we've asked questions. You have a few minutes to summarize any comments on the items that you've heard. Then we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing after that.
In summary, I appreciate the comments that you've all presented to me. I will make the changes as recommended.
Okay.
Yeah, no objections.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We can start with discussion of the case amongst the commissioners. Ms. Welch.
I don't have any questions.
You can leave your elevations up, please.
Overall, I think the project looks good. With some of the tweaks that we kind of mentioned, of like adjusting the windows a bit, maybe trying to figure out how we can make the building look a little less squat. Perhaps we can raise the pitch of the roof a little bit as well. I think it will be a nice project.
Yeah, I would agree based on the comments that we've made. I think we have to craft a motion. One final detail is the I'm not sure if it's functional or not, but he's showing a circular ridge vent on the gable towards the front. Again, there's a if it is functional or even if it's not functional, there's a more historically appropriate way to detail a vent, and I'm sure staff can help them make a selection.
Yeah. And I think the bones of this project are there. It's just some of the details need to get massaged a little bit. I mean, our conversation, I think all windows need to be 1/1. Okay, maybe there's an exception for these windows over here that, since they're smaller in the stairwell, maybe those don't need to be. But I think everything else, the larger 3x5 windows, all need to be 1/1. And I think that's an interesting point to group these front windows on the front elevation together. Kind of by putting those, we're on the north elevation, grouping those windows together centers them up within the columns. So I think you're going to have a better rhythm because once you center that off, you get those away from the exterior edges of the wall. You mark 2 feet here. Those tend to maybe go back a little bit more. I think you have some flexibility to move that more into the bedroom and the great room. But grouping those front windows on that front elevation is really going to help. Mr. Gillette's point about the ridge vent going to a square is more historically sensitive and appropriate. I still think the second floor and the roof, I'm okay with the pitch. I just think it needs to be raised up a little bit, give a little bit more separation between the top of the window head and your trim and separating your roof there.
What about the railing? Oh, railings at the stoop?
That doesn't bother me. You still have a 2-foot drop there. I mean, it creates a separation of public and private space. So,
I guess it's safe.
It's residential. So you don't need a lot. I think it looks like 2.6. I think it may need to go up to, 36 maybe.
It's 36 now.
In the residential code, whatever that is. So that may affect your piers, because you have a nice proportion there with your handrails coming into the tops of your piers and your columns. So if that needs to go up a little bit, that's a minor adjustment, but I think that's generally okay. But I would like to see that whole kind of roof raised up about 8 inches.
When you talk about grouping the windows, you're talking about just the windows on the second floor, correct? Not the because on the windows on the first floor,
Right.
You only have 3 and you got a door.
You have a door.
You have 2 doors on the first
So
floor.
maybe that comes in a little bit closer together, but you wouldn't want to have one. You need to have a separation there between a door and a window.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm we were talking about the second floor.
Second floor, but I'd also say the lower on the left-hand side, maybe that gets grouped and this one shifts over, align it a little bit better.
Yeah.
And keep that that second floor entry door where it is.
Okay.
We could do some
I just wanted to
alignment
make sure I understood.
And I think the rest of the tree, the hardy board is good. The separation of the trim at the second floor, you know, the base elevation between the grade and the first floor is fine as long as that's consistent. I think, you know, the front elevation needs to be some kind of separation there, which could be a control joint or whatever. But in general, I think that looks pretty good. The windows are detailed right, you know, in elevation, the 1/1. So, yeah, the bones are basically there. Just a few little adjustments here and there.
Yeah.
And, you know, we didn't see a whole lot on the finishes and proposed materials, so I think that we'll work with staff on getting a final palette together for all your materials. I think yeah.
So move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in BLC 22-76 for the property located at 1205 East 15th Avenue with the following conditions. To move the front elevation windows to put them together and then move them to the center of the column base. To work with staff with the concrete scoring for the walkway and the driveway. To make all of the larger 3x5 windows 1/1s. Let's see, to change the gable vent from a circle to a square, and then to work with the final finishes with staff as well. Oh, and then to raise the second floor roof by a course, by about 8 inches.
I have one question for the group.
Hold on.
Okay.
And then, let's see, where am I? Because based upon the finding of fact, are there any other conditions that I might miss?
I think we should ask for, as noted in the staff report, to submit final railing details, design details.
And to work with staff and submit final railing details to staff as well. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Ybor City design guidelines of the City of Tampa based on the following reasons. It conforms with height and width, setback, spacing, alignment, similarity, details and forms, and building materials to the neighborhood.
Second.
Okay. There's the motion before you that we're going to vote on has a certain number of conditions. You've heard them: raising up the roof 8 inches, making all windows 1/1, work with staff on the concrete scoring and the finishes, grouping of the front windows, and changing that roof vent to a square. Also providing railing details to staff. Are you okay with those conditions?
Yes.
Okay. I know you wanted to ask a question, but we're in the middle of a motion, right? Okay. Okay, all in favor of said motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for your presentation. We look forward to your project.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Avila, staff with Historic Preservation. Moving to the next agenda item, which is BLC 22-77. This is for the address of 1304 East Columbus Drive. Currently, it's a vacant parcel. I'll do a brief photo presentation to show you the surrounding properties and the parcel in question. The request in front of you this morning is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a primary structure with site improvements. The approximate square footage is 1,800 square foot. Previous action back in 1989, there was a duplex there that was demoed, and that's the only previous action we have on this parcel. Moving to the brief photo presentation. Is that on your monitor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. This is on Columbus Drive. Back in 1929, it was referred to as Michigan. Property in question is one off the corner to the east off of 13th Street. In 1929, there was an alley that ran behind the property, and the orientation was east-west alley. Today, with the overhead showing you Columbus Drive, the property in question, 13th Street. As a reference point, you see Cascade and Pool over here. But if you notice that the alley has been vacated. So when vacating of alleys come in front of this board, you take it very seriously because future development can be impaired. All the vehicular access will come off the primary street off of Columbus Drive. This is looking at the subject site. You see new construction to the east and a period home to the west. Looking at those homes, this is new construction. This is a duplex that faces Columbus Drive. That was reviewed and approved by this board. This is the contributing structure that's to the west. When this picture was taken, there was the beautification of Columbus Drive was in place. You'll see some of the parallel parking, the crosswalks, and the planting of trees to better the environment. You see some of the bulb outs, and here's the parallel parking that I spoke about. Tree grates and some brick expressed into the environment. And the last photo I have is a FDOT structure that was relocated with the expansion of FDOT through that department and through preservation. We went ahead and selected certain homes to be relocated, and this was one of them that had a unique design. This was referred to as a boarding house. That concludes the photo presentation, and the agent will address the board.
Good morning, staff members. My name is Juan Quinones. I'm representing the owner. This is Elliot Acosta. He's the contractor. I'm going to start the presentation real quick, just to go over the site plan with you guys. As you guys can see, the site plan is the property is only 35 feet wide by 114 feet, plus or minus deep. It's a very tight site. We got Columbus to the south. We position the house at basically at the build two line from the two properties next to each other. The front of the house is set back about 10 feet. The house will be set at 28 inches above grade, which is similar to the two structures abutting our property to either side. So basically 3 treads and 4 risers. The house will be positioned 3 feet from the west property line, allowing us to at least have 2 feet for, clearance between our eaves and the main structure and the property line. On the east side, we have our basically driveway. We actually work with staff, and they allow us to do a 9-foot driveway on the side of the house that goes into it, so we can park at least 1 car. The house right now, if you look at the site plan, we have like a little wraparound porch to a certain extent. That's to allow the person that parks on the side of the house to come in from the side of the house into the house. We have a lanai in the back side. Got a couple of trees along the side that will be removed. That's pretty much it for our site plan. And then I'm going to jump into our elevations. I'm going to start from the top to the bottom. We have the ridge bent along the top of the roof with asphalt shingles. We have 1x8 fascias and 1x6 exposed rafters. We have smooth hardy boards with trim that is separating the first floor and the second floor. They are also smooth, the trim pieces. Around the windows, we have basically your hardy board trim as well, 5 inches on the side, 7 inches on the top. We have the 1/1 single home windows everywhere. We only have 3 types of windows here. We have our standard 3-foot by 5-foot. We have our standards 3-foot by 4 feet high, or 3.5 high. And then we have a fixed window on the front of the property, the structure. We also have, on the gable ends, we have a smooth hardy board with a decorative louver with similar trim around the louver that matches the windows. Going down, we also have some wood brackets to kind of accentuate the front of that gable. Going down to the first floor, again, smooth hardy board It's on a stem wall, so from the first floor below the first finished floor, we're going to have smooth stucco, cementitious stucco, with also, again, a trim that separates the base from the main building. Our columns will be a taper column, similar standard bungalow style with the brick face on it. And then we're going to have a couple of stoops in front of the building. So I'm going to just walk around here and kind of show you the side elevation, from front to back. On the back side, we do have a porch, like a little lanai porch. Not as detailed as the front, because it's in the rear of the house, just standard columns. The pitch of the roof is 6 to 12 pitch. And then I'm gonna jump into the details. Oh, I'm sorry, let me go back to the elevations. I want to show you the wraparound porch area and the access. We have a door that leads into the house from the side of the house. So the car will park on the side. It will have an entrance to the side of the house. This is the rear of the house with the cover lanai area porch. Again, same steps, and then the layout of the windows and the louvers. So I'm going to jump into some of the details. This is kind of like a detailed elevation of the windows and the trimming around the windows. Just something similar to what we are proposing. Typical smooth hardy board with the corner beads, corner trims on them. We are going to have bead boards on the underside of the soffits. They're going to be vinyl. And then we're also going to have bead board on the underside of the porches. They're going to be painted. Construction, typical construction, starting from the bottom up, stem wall with CMU, block from the first floor. We'll have floor trusses, and then above that, it will be standard framing construction. It's okay. As you see, our finished floor from floor to floor on this house, we got 9'4". We have a 2 foot for the trusses, and then 9'4" ceilings on the second floor as well. Gonna just show you a few pictures of some houses that are around the area, which also have some wraparound porches, just like the ones that we are proposing, with similar, ceilings and whatnot, and trimming around the windows and doors. So that's one. We also have, let me show you a few more. That's the same house. This is another 2-story house with a wraparound porch. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking for. Also, I'm going to show you, this is the door type that we are trying to implement into this house. So it's 2/1, pretty much. You got one window on the top and then the 2 trims at the bottom. We're planning to use wood-cladded single-hung windows, white. Of course, again, the smooth, hardy lap siding. We are going to have the round gutters and downspouts tying into an ADS pipes because we need to drain the site properly. And that concludes my presentation. Oh, I'm sorry. Color palette, we would like to work with staff and make sure that we properly address the color palette to match the surroundings. And the hardware, also, we would like to work with staff just to make sure we work around with matching the neighbors and the surroundings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vila.
Good morning, Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Can you put the front elevation on, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines. The conditions on page 3 of Some of the conditions have already been addressed. Focusing on the front elevation, the intermediate piers were consistent with the two outside piers. We had them lower those piers through discussion, but the cap height should die in at the porch level. So I think additional modification is needed to those center piers to be historically correct. As I stated, the fenestration on the left and right side, they have increased their window patterns. The gable vent is always somewhere that has struggled and is left off on the drawings. The trim around the vent should be consistent with the windows as shown today. But the vent itself, if they're fins or glass or however that's going to end up being presented, we could do that administratively, I believe. The rear porch was not discussed in any length. I think additional discussion is needed on that rear porch. If you looked at the structures that are currently in place on the east and west side, you see the setbacks from the property line. This is not consistent with the zoning in YC2. He is bringing it more forward, which is historically correct, but a design exception is required to bring it closer to the property line than 10 foot. So that's a process that he would engage with zoning, and that preservation will sign off once those drawings are submitted. He did discuss the elevation from grade to be consistent, but I think additional information or some numbers need to be put into the record this morning as well. And then lastly, with the construction type, he's got block on the first floor and he's got frame on the second floor. So we're looking for the reveal of the windows to be the same on the first and the second. That the first floor doesn't have an inset and the second flush with the facade. So the contractor is here and he could express their concerns at how they're going to move forward. With that, I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vila. Is anyone here from the public wishing to comment on this case? Seeing none. We'll start with some questions for the applicant, starting on my left.
I just have a couple questions on the, unless I'm missing it.
Mm-hmm.
On the porch, there's no railings.
Correct.
Does there need to be railings at that height? Or be consistent with the neighbors?
Well, Ron just mentioned that those two center piers need to be raised up, so I'd imagine you'd probably want some railings in there, like we saw in the last case.
Got it. Okay.
Well, I thought Ron said they needed to go down.
Down.
Do they need to go down or go up?
Down.
If I could comment, the guardrail is not required by code. So in the porches that aren't so deep, it creates a playpen effect when you put the railing there. So it's an option of the applicant. If they are to put a rail in that is not code required, the railing height should be at about 24 to 28 inches is what we've measured in the past to be historically correct. But in this request, there is no guardrail being submitted, so the center piers should be shortened to be at the height of the porch.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And my other, unless I'm viewing this correctly, I understand the side door, but in the picture that I'm looking at on the front elevation, there's two doors.
Yes.
Is it set back? So is that the side door? So there'll be three doors total?
Yes, ma'am. So one door, of course, you got the main door. And then let's go back to
Show
the
all
side
the
door.
elevations.
Yeah,
Can you
you show
raise
all
that
of them.
up so we can see all?
Yeah, absolutely. These are, let me close this out.
Would it be possible to see a floor plan? That's usually part of the presentation.
I don't have a floor plan with me at the moment, but I can share that with staff, So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to add some additional fenestration to that back wall that kind of sets back from the porch. And we added a door. We do have a little storage below the stairs. There's a stairway on that side of the house. And we added a door just to allow for access to that storage that's below the stairs.
So when I'm standing on the street and I'm looking straight at the house, I'm going to see two front doors?
Yes,
And then when I step over, I'm gonna see another door on the
on the
side of the
side.
house.
That's correct. So if you'll see that door on the background, and then you'll see the door to the side that goes into the house.
And the second door is, the porch is a wraparound porch, so the second door is at the back of the wrap.
Correct.
I think that's my only question. It just seems a little odd to me.
Well, we were planning to put a window there, but instead we ended up putting a door. Since we had the stairway and we have a storage right below it, we were thinking that, we better put a door there to access that storage area.
And will the door only access the storage area,
Yes.
or can I walk into the house?
You walk into the house from the side door, from this door here. So you go into the house
Right.
from the side door. But the one that's further back in the front porch, from the front porch that wraps around, that will access the storage area.
So the stairs start from the rear of the house and go towards the front.
Correct.
So there's storage for that.
And I get the storage. I guess I'm just thinking, should it be a solid door?
Right.
It's my only thought, versus something that looks just like the front
Right.
door. It just is
Ori-
confusing.
Originally, we did have a solid door, and we were going to paint it to match the
Right, kind of have it
side.
blend in and not
Correct.
stand out.
Correct, and we can do that. I mean, if that's the something that will eliminate the confusion, we certainly can do just a standard door that matches the same color as a hardy board, to kind of blends in and not
Yeah.
stick out like it is
Because I
right
kept
now.
looking at your write-up going, okay, is this a duplex? Thinking I missed something
No,
somewhere.
it's not a
But it's a
duplex.
primary residence,
Yes.
and that's what was causing the question for me.
Yeah, certainly we can actually make that work.
Okay, okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
So on your rear elevations, the second story windows, we've kind of talked about the previous
Sure.
project. They're very close to the edges, and they're not aligned with the bottom windows either, which makes them look a little off. Is there the opportunity to kind of shift them in a bit?
Absolutely.
And then as Ron kind of mentioned as well, the contractors here going from block to wood framing above. We're good with keeping the windows flush on the exterior as we kind of move from one material to another.
Yes.
Let's see. Can we go to site?
Site plan?
Oh, it's set. Sorry. Going to the site plan, yes.
Absolutely. Let's go back to the site plan. Okay.
Thank you. Just quickly point out the location of the AC pad.
The AC
Greenhouse?
pad will be
Right
right back here.
All right. That's all the questions I have at the moment right now.
Okay.
You don't have floor plans?
I don't have floor plans at the moment.
They are required for coming before the board. It's part of the submission package.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
No question.
Okay. Okay. So so we're putting a new curb cut in the front there, right? So
Yes.
I've heard that you've working with the city. They just renovated that, put new, curb cuts in there. But you've talked to city transportation. You're going to cut that and be able to have a driveway to the front. So that's a 9-foot driveway. It looks like that's going to be right up against the house.
Correct.
You have a little bit of flex on outside of your property line because the neighbor's house is back a little bit. So, and I think that's the code minimum, correct, for a driveway? Okay. The stairs going up to that side stoop, the side porch, they're going to be inset in the porch, right?
Yes.
So how far up is that? Is it 2
It's
feet?
2 foot. It's 2 foot. It's actually, the steps
Yeah.
will be in about 2 foot.
Okay, so how wide, can you
8
give us
foot.
some dimensions on that porch, that
Yeah.
side porch?
So the porch is 8 foot deep on either side,
Yep.
and then you have the steps going in about 2 feet into it.
Yeah, it'll be more than that.
So you have about 6 feet in front of the 5 to 6 feet in front of those steps. To
It'll
walk
take up
around.
more than that. It'll be half. It'll probably be about 4 feet. The steps will go in about 4 feet. It'll leave you about 4 foot flush
That's
walkway.
true. That's 7. It's 2 foot 8. Because you're right. You got 3 feet.
I mean, if you're
There's
talking,
3
let's say,
steps. That's true.
12-inch treads,
Right.
so you're
So you got
4 to
13.
5 of them. So it's getting a little narrow there, but
From that side?
I just want to make sure, because we didn't see a floor plan, that the stairs are inset. They're not
Correct.
showing up on your site plan. So they're going to be inset. It kind of narrows that down a little bit, so it's going to take up half that width,
Yeah,
really.
that's
you know.
correct.
But I see what you're doing there. I think all your trees, you've got all those trees on the west property line are going away. Is that what the X's are?
Correct.
Okay. And what are you doing with the back part of that lot?
Back side of the lot, we're not doing anything. We're just keeping it the way it is. I will ask the owner and see if they want to remove those shrubs or whatever trees we have in the rear, but that's about it.
Yeah, it's just and I know you're pretty far down this path, but it seems to me that you can give yourself a lot more breathing room if you made this narrower versus narrower and longer. Take a little bit more space back there to get that square footage that you're looking for, because you're right up on the property lines.
Yes.
It's going to create fire issues for you with the separation on the property line. You mentioned gutters and downspouts. I heard a round gutter. What's your? I heard a round downspout. What's your gutter? Is that a half round?
Half round.
Like historically
Correct.
Okay. And then you're going to transfer that in and capture that water.
Correct. Into an 80-inch pipe system.
Okay. So 40 inches. All right. Let's go to the elevations.
Sure.
Please. Okay, let's start off on the porch. So that one window there looks like it's a little out of place. It's lower than all the rest. So can we bring that up and make that even? What's your head height on your windows and doors?
8 feet.
So the top of that door, I'm on the right elevation, that door that goes into the building, into the house, the top of that's at 8 foot right there.
Correct.
Okay, and you're going to have the trim around that. I mean, we talked about maybe differentiating that door, but that's kind of the front door. But I do think that door needs to be centered up within that bay. Move it over a little bit, get it away from, because you're going to have trim in that corner. I mean, with a hardy board, you're going to have trim in that corner. Make sure you have enough space there. Actually, you're going to have double trim. So you're going to need probably to have about 2 feet off of there. And that single window needs to be brought up to match the other ones.
That's correct.
The rear porch, I think staff wanted a little bit more information on that.
Sure.
It looks like it's pretty straightforward, not a whole lot of detail. It's a stucco base, wood columns, wood framing exposed. Or are you going to put V-board underneath that?
Yes, we're going to have B-board.
Okay, so all exposed surfaces are going to be V-board, front porch, rear porch, side porch.
Correct.
Okay. And we already talked about those windows on that second floor. We're going to move that in. Again, that's a trim issue. It's not, one, it's aesthetics, but it's also true, for the contractor to be able to get his trim in there and be able to finish that off properly.
On the back elevation?
Yeah, these
On the
top
rear,
the top two windows.
Top 2 windows.
Bring those in. Yeah, I mean, I'd try to center that up with the other 2 windows if you can below to keep that a little bit more. I mean, it seems like that first floor rear porch is really kind of condensed in there.
It is the rear porch.
And I'm okay with that. It's not like you're doing that same thing. But he has good alignment on the front right here.
Are we design or are we in questions?
We're in questions.
Because I have, there are other things.
Okay. Well, I'll get through mine.
Just asking.
We talked about that. Questions. I like what we're doing with the columns there. So, yeah, I go back and forth. Yeah, they're questions. The front elevation, it looks like you're wrapping around that front porch on the side a little bit, which I think is an appropriate detail. You may have some conflicts there with the trim.
There's a little trim here.
But I think, to the other point there about making sure that your windows are inset, they can't be flush with the hardy board or anywhere. So you have 2 different conditions to mitigate there. And I think you kind of show that in your wall section, so I think you're aware of that they need to be inset. So yeah, if you have any other questions.
No
That's the end of my
questions.
question.
No questions.
Oh, you have a question? I thought you had questions.
I thought we were in design review all of a sudden. I have some design.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. So we're done with questions, I think, right? Okay. We're going to go ahead. You have a few minutes to summarize anything that we've questioned, discussed here, and then we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Yes, I would like to work with staff members to fine tune to those small little details, and if you guys grant us permission to continue.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and close the public hearing now, and we can start with discussions of the case starting on my right.
Sure. And I think I need to correct myself because apparently I'm reading the application submittal and we don't require floor plans. So my apologies to you. However, that said, floor plans would be helpful, especially in this situation with the front porch.
Absolutely.
I applaud the design for introducing a wraparound porch, which is very characteristic, and especially on this unique site when it's a duplex. However, I really have an issue with the placement of this false door, so to speak, that's this entrance to the storage and not the entrance to the unit. We talked about moving the entrance to the unit, making it a little bit, moving it on the bay. However, without seeing the floor plans, I'd like to think that there's an internal solution that really would place the front door facing the street, because that's the pattern you see within, the neighborhood, even in duplexes for the most part.
The front door is facing the street.
Yeah.
It's the second door into the storage unit that really needs to be solid.
But the front door to the unit.
First of all, it's a single family. It's not a duplex.
Oh, it's
So
not
that door is storage. This is a side entry in there, and then that's the front entry.
Again, not having seen the floor plans, thank you for the correction.
So I think that second door on the porch needs to be solid versus it looks like two front doors.
Yeah. Okay. Then my issue, just from a design perspective, is that door should be differentiated so that it doesn't
Blend
appear to be
into
a
the
front
wall.
door.
Absolutely.
Again, my
No
apologies.
problem.
And then the only other comment I have, besides the ones that have been mentioned, is just the overall placement of the window, especially on the rear. But also, the applicant showed a detail, perhaps from a different project, where there was two square windows that had been ganged together, grouped together, which I thought was actually quite proportionately attractive and historic. And I was hoping that they'd do that on the front end, where there's the two separate windows, which is sort of a very modern expression. Again, we don't know what's going on inside.
Right.
But is it possible to move those together and group them? So that
We
you have-
may
Sir,
be
the
able
Public
to.
hearing's closed, so
Okay.
we're
Yeah, I mean,
Got it.
that would be a suggestion. I think it would improve the proportions of the front
Yeah,
elevation.
maybe those, but you can't really.
I don't even think they need to
There's
be
no much
shortened.
room.
They
Combine
just need
it.
to be grouped
Combine
together.
it.
You showed a drawing of that situation, that condition.
Yeah.
But we're
And,
kind of guessing they're two bedrooms,
I don't know.
right? We don't know the floor plan.
I don't know. But besides that, I have no other comments.
No, I think overall it's good. Windows, as everyone else has expressed, are a big concern. Changing that door, I thought it was a duplex too as well. So so differentiating that storage door would be fantastic, and then rear elevation, aligning those windows, getting the head height of the wraparound porch window to line up the door. I think two big things. And in terms of rear porch, I agree it does look squished. I wonder if there's an opportunity maybe just to make it the width of the house at that point as well. Give them a little more rear porch space as well in that case. And then you don't quite they don't seem to be as squeezed by those columns there as well. So my thoughts.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think I think the bones are good here. I think some of the window adjustment, I have confidence in staff to be able to address that. We've communicated some of our concerns to the applicant and staff to kind of follow through here. That on the right elevation, that side is still a little awkward, but I think the trim's there. With the stairs there, you kind of need that column on both sides to differentiate. It's almost like maybe that column goes over to the side, but that's too wide there. So, Commissioner Wynn, when he was talking about moving maybe the rear elevation, the Porches comes out a little bit. Maybe it could go all the way to the side or just a little bit, just to get it off that window straight, that separation. And of course, you only see that straight on, but I think the proportions on the front look good. Changing that door to a secondary type of door, and work with staff on final materials, and we're in pretty good shape.
to grant certificate of appropriateness for drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in BLC 22-77 for the property located at 1304 East Columbus Drive, with the following conditions: that the applicant works, as they mentioned, with color palette with staff, hardware with staff, that they lower the center piers on the front porch so that the cap height is even with the porch, that they work with staff for the window alignments on the rear elevation at the wraparound porch, and possibly at the front elevation too, with doubling up the two top story windows, that the storage door off of the wraparound porch becomes a secondary door, and then potentially widening up the rear porch as well. Are there any other conditions I may have missed?
Talked about the setback of the windows need to be consistent in the block. And
Setback of the windows, the reveal of the windows between the block, between the first and second story need to be consistent, and
the head height of that window.
and head height of the wraparound porch. I think I mentioned that. But, because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Ybor City design guidelines of the City of Tampa, based on the following reasons, it conforms to the design criteria for new construction.
I'll second, and then did we clarify that the porch piers at the we did clarify that as part of the motion. Okay, I'll second.
To the applicant, there's been a number of conditions placed on this certificate of appropriateness. Are you okay with the conditions as stated in the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. All in favor of said motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're doing good.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Our last case this morning is BLC 22-79 for the address of 2205 North 12th Street. This is a vacant parcel as well. This has the YC2 zoning classification. There are two requests this morning. There's a variance request that the agent has been advised to discuss the variance first. If the variance receives a favorable recommendation, then we go into the certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a primary structure with site improvements. As the agent goes through his hardship criteria, we have documentation in your packet so you could follow the 6 hardship criteria that must be addressed this morning to receive a favorable recommendation. Moving to the photo presentation. On 12th Street and in between 12th Avenue and 11th Avenue, you see a series of homes that were there in 1929. If you look at the footprint, they're identical to each other except for the corner units that have a wraparound porch. The parcel that we're looking at this morning is indicated with this green highlighted area. The agent and owner brought forward a new construction to this parcel here, where the cursor is at, and that is up, and I'll show it through my photo presentation. And then he's moved on to this parcel here. So there's a rhythm of substandard lots, but it is a buildable lot, and that poses the challenge for his variance this morning. There is an alley that runs to the north of the property, but transportation has looked at this, and they had no negative comments as far as the vehicle coming in here. It just doesn't meet transportation standards, and that will be addressed by the agent. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background. This is looking from above the aerial today. Out of the series of homes that were there, there's one that's there now. There's one that's going to be requested this morning, and then there's 2 to the north, and I'll show you some photos of that. This is looking at the retaining wall that was left behind. This is the new construction, and this is a period home over here. This is looking at the rusticated stone, the steps leading to a house that burnt down in 2005. Just looking at the transition from the street, the granite curb, the walkway, I believe there was some discussion about this right-of-way tree that will be removed, and then this reoriented to make that expression from the street into the property. This is the new construction that the agent built and was approved by this board. You see the retaining wall had some scarring, and it was just left behind, showing the bones of the wall. This is looking at the contributing structure across the alley to the north, the setback and the elevation from grade. This is looking at the open alley. It has not been vacated. This is just looking down 12th Street. This is to the south. And looking at the brick street, the granite curbing, the parkway that lines the sidewalks, the street, and the vocabulary of the contributing structures. Directly across the street, they have surface parking for the church that is just to the south of the subject site. That concludes the photo presentation, and if the applicant could start with the variance information, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
How do I turn this on?
You got it.
Oh, right here. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jay Harris with JMH Homes, the owner and builder for this lot here at 2205 North 12th Street. Today I'm requesting site improvements for a new single-family construction primary structure, along with the variance to reduce the parking from 1 to 0. Well, in reference to the variance, the lot it's a non-conforming approved lot. This is one of 3 lots that sat by each other, and none of these lots ever had their own individual parking. And so, my request is to not to not have parking where it never had parking. There's no viable access to the lot because of that small and tight alley, and it would be a tight radius attempting to drive down the alley and park in the back of the house. You'd have to have some small Prius or something, or maybe a go-kart to fit down that alleyway. And the lot, it creates its own hardship. The lot is a 30 by 40, 1,240 square foot lot, and the house is very tight. So trying to get a primary structure on there and a parking pad, it wouldn't be economical. And also the variance, it won't interfere with the health, safety, or welfare of others or the other properties around it. It would be in harmony with the neighborhood. I own a house next door. I park on the street, or if I have any visitors over, they park on the street. The neighbors, all the neighbors, they all park on the street. So this is what everyone does on 12th there. It won't create any disharmony. Again, everyone parks on the street, and it will serve the general intent and purpose of Chapter 27, Section 2796 of the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan, which is development of Tampa responsibly. The variance, I believe it will provide benefit to the public because we can have a new primary structure there. It's going to increase tax revenues and just beautify the city. And lastly, it will be 100% consistent with the historic district in the neighborhood, just helping that have further appeal. And that's my feedback on the variance request.
Commissioners, Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. My direction is to focus on the variance first, ask questions, and then have a motion to the variance and see where that goes. If it's a positive recommendation, then we could go into the certificate of appropriateness.
Okay, I think, so we're going to, is that your staff report following, or we're going to follow the standard?
There's no staff report for variance. It's the applicant's Kamaria Pettis-Mack from the City Attorney's Office. So staff does not give a report for variance requests. It's the applicant's burden to prove the hardship criteria, and the board members can ask questions of the applicant regarding the variance. And then if the board approves the variance, then staff will give their presentation for the certificate of appropriateness.
So it's still the ball's still in the applicant's court right now. I think it would be beneficial to you to provide us a little bit more information on maybe the general characteristics of this site plan is very difficult to read. I know you said that your lot size is 30 by 40, but I'd like to see if we can get like a better understanding of where the 30 by 40 is and how big of house is going on there.
Is that, it's not showing up here?
It will.
Oh, here?
Yeah,
I see here.
those here.
Okay. So this is to the left, the west of the west to the west side. That's the front of the house. Right. So I'm going to also, I have a design exception submitted already as well. Oh, okay.
Yep.
We're trying to
It wasn't
follow
there.
you.
Yeah, it wasn't there. Sorry. I have a design exception because I'm requesting the setbacks be reduced from 10 feet to 0 there. So, and that's because of the lot size. The lot size, so it runs 30 feet this way and it's 40 back. And then I have 10 foot setback here, and then on the north and south sides I have 3 foot setbacks. So these are the property lines right here.
Okay, we got that.
Okay.
3 feet, 3 feet, 10 feet. I have to have a retention pond back here to capture the water, and there's literally there's no space. I have the only other house over here, and I had also requested a variance for parking, and it was approved by the board due to the same reasons, because this lot is also a 30 by 40 as well. And
so,
yeah.
So basically, to the north side is the
alley. Yep.
Okay. So you're 3 foot off the alley. You've got 10 foot on. Do you need a 10 foot rear yard?
Yes,
or,
it's required. Yes.
Right. I mean, I'm just wondering if that could be also a parking space. I mean, I think where I'm going is transportation would say, well, that you can't get a turn radius in there appropriately to get in there, and that alley is 10 foot wide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's hard to get in there, but he has space, so it's kind of like, I know it's tight. I don't think it's feasible, but there's some excess room there because the house looks like it's a 5 foot porch up front, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yes.
Okay, so the house dimensions are 23.4 by.
42.5.
No, it's not.
No.
Well,
it's obscured by that right there.
And
so
the block at
24 by 24, let's say.
Yeah, this is it's about 30. It's 24 by roughly 24 by 24.
Okay.
But this design, it's consistent with it's the block average, so that's why the porch is that size too. So.
And then up front, and you also have a retaining wall up there too, which we saw from the photo. So it's not like you're pushing that up against there as close as you can to get a little bit of space for your retention. My point is the retention could be buried, but I still don't think you have enough room to go in there. And given that this lot size is 30 by 40, to get something buildable on there, I mean, you're right, it's tight.
So none of the other houses have parking, right?
No.
None of the other houses have driveway or parking on the property?
No.
Based on how that's laid out?
So it's very consistent with
It's
the
very
adjacent
consistent with what's
properties.
existing and what the
And if you're
period
going to
calls
build
for.
this on a legal lot, but it's a smaller legal lot, I mean, you're optimizing. You're going 2 stories already. You don't have much room. You got to put a couple things back there, AC pad. But
So are we in discussion?
Yeah.
Well,
With him.
we're asking
discussing with
questions.
him.
We're questions.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, do you guys have any questions for the applicant?
No, to me it makes sense.
No questions.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So we're gonna go ahead. You have a few moments if you want to kind of summarize anything that you heard from the kind of questions or discussion, if you will, and then we're going to close the public hearing.
No, I agree with everything you guys stated. Sounds like you kind of agree with me. a variance is definitely needed to push the project forward.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing on the variance part, then we can discuss the case amongst ourselves. Commissioner Welch?
No, I'm fine. I think it makes sense.
Makes sense, conforms with the adjacent lots as well, as characteristic of it, so, yeah.
Yeah, and in your packet, you have the variance hardship criteria. So
Right, I read
there's
through
five points, and one of the, Part C has 6 points in there, so they have to meet all the criteria there. I think it's within the historic fabric. The precedent said it doesn't do any behavior given by the limits of the site. So I think the standards are met here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree, and I would be happy to make a motion as such.
That's right.
Just make sure I have the right thing here. Yeah. Move that the variance request in case BLC 22-79 for the property located at 2205 North 12th Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a parking reduction from 1 to 0, because based upon the findings of fact, the petitioner has met the burden of proof with regarding to the 6 hardship criteria set forth in Chapter 27, Section 27-96, D of the City of Tampa Code ordinances for granting variances as stated, and the evidence provided in this public hearing, specifically that the variance, if granted, would allow for development that is consistent with the design standards and compatible with the historic pattern of development within the historic district.
Second.
All in favor of granting the variance request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move into the certificate of appropriateness.
Yes, sir. So here's the site plan.
Get the staff report.
After he does his photo.
Got it.
Case
I'm
intro kind of thing.
Sorry, Ron.
Hey, we're on schedule.
I know, I'm just making sure we're doing it right. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Can you guys, is this better? Okay. Site plan, again, we have a retention pond in the back here. We have the AC pad, and this it's going to be a 2-story house. But here's the site plan here, and I'm going to go right into the elevations. If there are no questions on the site plan. Elevations. Let's see. Okay. Elevations 2-family. It's a 2-family, it's a 2-story single-family home. Hardy board. We have hardy board here. We have a shingle roof. We're going to have a shingle roof. We have, I don't have these on the plans yet, but this is going to be changed. These are going to be single hung windows. And in the middle, there's a 1x4. I have 1x4 here between the windows, and it's actually, it's going to be 6 inches between those 2 windows. My architect just kind of, he forgot that portion. Up top here, the between the double windows, we have columns that are they're going to be. The columns are actually, let's start with the foundation. The foundation of the house is going to be a stem wall, and then slab. And then there's going to be a block on the first floor. There's block first floor, 9'4" ceilings, and then up top we have frame. And if we look around the house, the skirting, that's going to be stucco, smooth stucco, and we're gonna bring that up to a 1x6 trim, wood trim, and then that turns into the hardy board. And then also we see I have, this is gonna be I have trim here. I'm missing a band. I'm gonna put another band around the entire house. This band doesn't just end here, but it's going to sit in between the floor trusses, a 12-inch band, and it's gonna go all around the house here to create that separation between the first and second floor. I'm also going to have, you don't see the gutter or the,
We can't see where you're pointing.
oh,
You
sorry.
need to move the picture down.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm going to have gutters and downspouts, which aren't shown on these elevations, but I do have them on the wall sections. They're going to go into ADS pipes, and then they're all going to be pushed to that retention pond in the back that was on the site plan. The columns are going to be 1x1s, 12 inches by 12 inches blocks, and then wrapped in wood. There's going to be sheathing around those blocks, and then you have the 1x4 that outlines that, and you have a cap and a base, which are also 1x4. My windows are going to be single hung windows. They open up and down. They're 3 feet by 5 foot. Most of them 3 by 5, 3 by 5. All of these. All in the front, 3 by 5, 3 by 5s. And we have, this is a bathroom window. That's a 2 by 2. Here's another 2 by 2. And then the same here. And this is, these are 3 by 5, 3 by 5s, and then this is a 3 by 3. All right, that's it for the elevations, and then I'm going to open up the wall sections. And actually, I know we're not supposed to have, we don't need to have floor plans. What happened now?
We can see it.
It's back.
Yeah, we
You're
can
back.
see it.
Yeah, okay, it's back in.
Okay. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath house, living room, dining room, kitchen. We have a bathroom here and stairs. And upstairs we have three bedrooms and another bathroom, a laundry room here, and hot water tank is also here. And we're going to look at wall sections. This is the front porch. These are the columns again, the block, and rebar in the blocks filled with concrete. Block again on the house. We have the slab here and, well, the stem wall as well. And that's the front porch. And here is the second floor. We can see the 16-inch overhang. I'm going to have beadboard. Yep. What's better?
I'd just like to see the whole wall section.
Oh, okay. Even though you can't read it, I just say it.
You can zoom in a little bit, but
you need to see it all. Okay. All right. All right. We have the overhang again, 16 inches. We have the gutter. It's going to have the beadboard there. I have 2x6s that are going to be the exterior walls. And again, there's hardy board. There's going to be hardy board at the top, and it's a typical framing up top on the second floor. And I think in the last presentation, these guys had the same issue as me too, because it's a block. I have the block at the bottom and frame up top. I'm going to have that inset. So I'm going to have 2x6s, but then I'm going to also put either 2x4s there or 1x4 set back in and place the windows so that they're inset. I don't have that detail on my plans, but I will have it for sure. And What else? Exterior. We have the rafters. The color palette. I'm going to have a gray house with white trim, consistent with the historic colors. And it's a really simple house. That I think that's it.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Avila, staff with Historic Preservation. Staff's finding this application is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines. We reviewed the plans on January 9, 2022. Some modifications to the drawings were made, and then we have these additional conditions to express this morning. There was some discussion about elevation from grade and setbacks. Mm-hmm. So as you discuss the setbacks, this is going to require a design exception through the zoning department. Those dimensions are required to show that it's in line with the abutting structures on each side as you go through the exercise. So part of the conditions that is a design exception will move forward if this receives final approval. There are some railings in the rear that there's no additional reference for, so if he could provide that this morning. An important component of this successful project is the columns. We worked on the columns numerous times. The porch is only 5 foot deep, and the columns should be in scale with the relationship to that porch as well. So he's modified from the plans that we saw to what you saw this morning. Yep. So if he could expand on that a little bit. Can you put the front elevation on, please?
Yes, sir. Yep.
So the front elevation, there's some disconnect from the first floor to the second floor. It looks like there's a lot of siding in between the two floors. He did put that larger beam on the wraparound, or to wrap around the porch, but the additional belt course may assist in reducing that massing on the front. So the illustration should be made and presented to staff if that's the direction of the board, or if the board wants to see something else, but to focus on that front elevation. He discussed the modification to the paired windows. The paired windows have a weight pocket in the middle that should be a larger component than the two outside vertical trim pieces on those paired windows, and that should be reflected on the drawings. And then lastly, also reflected on the drawings moving forward, is the construction technique from block to frame to show that the windows on the frame portion are set to match the reveal of the block. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone here from the public wishing to comment? Seeing none. We can ask the questions of the commissioner, starting on my right.
Sure. Wonderful to see another house infilling a gap in the historic fabric of the neighborhood. You have a very unique and historic feature, the retaining wall, and you're keeping the stoops. That's great. Yep. However, the design response from the house doesn't really acknowledge that placement. And it looks like from looking at your floor plans and what you've presented, it'd be really easy to redesign the house so that you retain that important historic relationship between the street and the house and the stoop and the front door. So I think that's crucial to moving forward on this project, and I don't see it reflected on what you're proposing. Have you considered that?
Well, so I guess let me make sure I understand what you're asking. So the retaining wall and the steps that are there that lead up to the front porch, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that
it appears to me from the photograph I'm looking at that if I am standing in the middle of the historic stoop, I'm looking at a column and not your front door. The site plan doesn't, the siding of the house and the front porch doesn't relate to the retaining wall. Is that correct?
And I think what he's talking about is it looks like the entry, the opening where the stairs are, is not in the center of the house. It's more towards the left, towards the oak tree by the power pole.
Yes, so the entry, if you, so like on this house here, the house let's see, you guys can see that. So the steps look exactly the same there. And generally, in the historic district, the door gets pushed over to the left side some. And I guess on this one, I have it, it's kind of aligned. It's aligned
Right.
with that.
But in the one you're proposing,
Doesn't show that.
it looks to me like we're going to have a column.
Okay.
Spacing of the column.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to, there's any alignment. What you're showing there is historically appropriate.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like what you're proposing on this new project.
No, there's not going to be a column there. I have to, I guess it's just not reflecting on my plans properly.
Bring up your site plan, maybe that'll.
Yeah, yep. Where's my
Yeah.
site plan?
Will
Because,
your,
where's my site plan?
the layout for this house is identical to the one next door, right?
No.
Similar proportions,
Okay.
but that looks like a column there, that looks like a column there, but then opening, or where is that?
The opening, the opening is right here. It's just what you're showing, what he's not showing is my architect, he didn't have those there.
Okay. All right. Well, you've
Yeah.
answered my question. Thanks.
All right, yeah. Sorry, he didn't have it there,
Thank
sorry.
Well, basically, you wanna see that, the
Aligned.
columns and the doors aligned with the existing condition a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's,
this word in question, but yeah, the design proposed doesn't really reflect the condition of the historic relation to the street.
yeah, but like inside, like if you bring up your elevations again,
Yeah.
I mean, you have the house right up on that retaining wall, right there. There's no space between the retaining wall and the house. Like if you look at your, I don't know what your top right elevation, your retaining wall is right there, and your house is right up on that retaining wall.
And,
But
and
you're,
to me, it looks like there's a column in front of the stoop.
could be, it's hard to know where this, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the alley, right, and that's
Yeah.
the property line.
Yeah.
So it looks like the existing stoop looks like it's shifted to the left, like at a third point, whereas your door is at the center, at the midpoint.
I mean, this is just a general comment, but
Yeah.
it's a good project, and it seems to. I mean, we seem to. There's a solution here. The drawings, a lot of what the applicant has presented isn't reflected in the drawings. I think this is a situation where we should just do a conditional approval, and we need more information with design direction.
Okay, let's continue asking questions, and we'll.
I have no further questions.
So going from your front elevation to what are side elevations? Oh, sorry. So going from your front elevations to one of your side elevations, why does it look like the second story windows on the front elevation? They look a little. They look like they're placed a little taller, but they also looks like to be a lot of hardy board in between the first and second floor there and the front elevation. Could we go over why that condition is happening?
Yeah. Well, he forgot the band around, so there's going to be a band that I'm going to place here to separate the first and second floor. Both stories, the first and second floor, are 9'4", and the headers they sit at 8 feet, so they're the same size. I think what the issue is because of that. So if you this section here, those are the floor trusses,
Right.
and then this is the top of the floor. So if you go here to here, that's 8 feet, and then also, here to there, there's 8 feet as well.
Because it looks like there's a couple like hardy planks that are on your side elevations. You can see the gap between the roof and the top of the window.
You can't see it from the front.
But you can't see it in the front. And I guess from the rear elevation is the same condition, right?
Right,
We
you
don't
can't
see
see it
that
in
gap
front
from the
or
roof and
rear.
the window. But you should all the head heights are aligned.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Are the sill
they're-
heights that are the same?
Yes, they're aligned. Yes.
Okay.
And the side elevations are correct.
Side, yeah.
Yeah, the front and rear elevations, the windows are too high, the head
In
height's
the
too high.
picture.
Yeah, but your side elevations are correct. There should be some space in there.
Okay.
So confusing to look at.
Yeah.
Okay.
There. Do you have like a large detail of the column condition since that's such an important part of the project.
Yep. Can you see this?
It's not going to get out, yes. Okay, so I guess could you just go over the trim for the base and the cap of these columns?
So so this is going to be a block here, 1 by 1s, 12 inches by 12 inches, filled with concrete, and then again he doesn't have this detailed out fully, but there's going to be plywood wrapped around these the 1 by 1s around the columns. And then on top of that plywood there, that smooth plywood, there's going to be 1 by 4s. Going to be 1 by 4s. Let me see if I can zoom in. These here are the 1 by 4s. And actually, and then here, 1 by 4, and then also, then I have a double. These are double 1 by 4s, 1 by 4 wrapped, and then another 1 by 4 that sits on top of those. That's the cap, and then the base is the same as well. We have the 1 by 4 and wrapped around, and then on the outer, and then you have another 1 by 4 that sits on top of that.
And this would be like a hardy.
No, those are going to be just regular 1 by 4 wood.
Okay. But what was the finish on the column?
The finish,
Yeah.
the finish is wood. There's not going to be.
Oh, you didn't just paint
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it's painted. Yeah.
The drawing indicates that the finish is stucco.
Yeah. So.
He has my architect. He does that. He'll take plans and then he puts them there, and he's kind of moving them over, and then he'll forget certain things. He was. I was pressing him to get these things together, and he just didn't have that there. So it's kind of throwing a couple of things off. Sorry about that. But no, what you see here on these elevations, they're going to be that 1 by 1 block, 12 inches by 12 inches, wrapped in wood and painted.
Okay. Got it.
No stucco.
All right. That's where the confusion was.
Is that the same thing you did on the project right next door?
No. Those are round columns there.
Oh.
Okay, thanks. No further questions right now.
Hold on, let me check my list. We talked about the front steps and the retaining wall, okay. All right, I don't have anything.
Okay, I have a couple questions. So let's bring up the elevations. Front elevation, if you want to slide. Okay. All right, that's fine. Yeah. So your front elevation, the second floor is too heavy. We see this sometimes. We had a case a couple months ago where there's just too much mass up there. So you have the right idea, but I think that trim band shouldn't be below the bottom of the trusses. It needs to move up to the bottom of that trim being at the bottom of the trusses. So you can put your block in there. And then you were talking about the band, the what do we call it, the belt course. You already talked about adding that to the rest of the house, but I think that needs to go up, a foot or 8 inch or 12 inch or whatever that thickness is. That'll give you a little bit better proportion, because right now it's just too heavy.
No, I agree. It's just not showing there. But also, I want to show you this one thing here too, because on my lentil schedule, where is this thing? So those, where is that picture?
It's okay. We can just discuss.
So my lentil schedule, I'll get a. I don't know why I don't have this here. Here it is. Right here. So my lentil schedule here, those are going to be, well, they sit up at, those are going to be precast. So I need to So what that wood is covering up that precast, right? And that's just where they're staying. That's just, that's where they're going to stay. So I want to cover those up somehow, right? But that middle, for me to separate the second floor, if I make that high, if I push that up and I don't have wood on that cast, it's gonna look funny. If I raise it up and I don't have any wood on that on those cast around, it's gonna look weird.
Well,
so
okay, let's go back to the elevation.
Yeah.
Because you may just need to do it differently.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that trim board right there is too low.
Yeah.
It needs to be moved up to the bottom of the truss. That allows you get more separation on your windows, and because the distance between the bottom of your second floor windows and that trim band is too great a distance, and it's done by first thing because your front windows are too high. They need to match your side elevations, so they need to come down, let's say 8 inches or whatever. And I can see your trim over here, but then that other trim piece needs to go up, and it may make you change your method of construction because. Yes, if you have lintels there, that lintel could move up, or maybe you go with a bond beam or something like that to carry your trusses there. It may simplify your overall construction, but that white trim on the front is too low, and it just makes the second floor way too heavy. So I think what we need to do is move it up, and then carry that bulk course all the way around the building, which you were already talking about. So it may just change the way that you actually accomplish that, but I think the proportions need to have that moved up.
Okay.
I think that whole space is, how deep is that trim band?
That's like 12. That's 12 inches there.
12, and then you have 2 feet for your
2 feet.
for your trusses. So
Yeah,
it just needs to move up 12 inches.
Okay.
And then your columns just get a little bit taller, and then your lintels. You could still do a lintel there, but you may want to go with a bond beam so you can carry your trusses in that particular case, and then hide that a little bit more.
Okay.
And that'll balance out the front.
It'll balance out the front.
makes
It's
sense.
too, we see like a lot of these 2-story that front. We can show you precedent in the neighborhood. They didn't catch that before, and it just becomes too heavy. That's like that second floor just hangs over that front porch. So we want to make that a little bit lighter.
Okay.
But I think the rest of your proportions are good. I didn't hear. I can't really read what your roof pitch is.
6'12".
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fine. I think the gable vent there is probably a little bit too big. I don't know if you even need that there on your dormer where the gable vent is. It just becomes too
much.
large of an element. So I either make that smaller or just not do it at all.
Okay.
Just have that as hardy.
Okay.
But I think bringing that trim band up 12 inches and having it go all the way around, so the same thing's going to happen, on your side elevation over here. That trim band's going to move up, but that's going to be continued all the way through. So it gives you better transitions. It'll be a continuous band all the way around, which I think in the end is going to make your life easier and it's more aesthetically pleasing.
Okay.
Too. So you may have to just get rid of the lintels. So on your soffit, you talked about gutters and downspouts.
Yep.
You talked about V-board for your soffit, so everything, nothing's going to be exposed. You can put V-board up there, under the porches.
All around, yep.
Okay. And I'd be careful, we'll probably work with staff on this. I think the columns may tend to get a little heavier. If you're doing 12 by 12s and then adding all this trim, they might tend to get a little bit bigger. You could say probably 12, but I just caution you on that because I think the proportions right now work pretty well. But if you start adding a bunch of wood trim,
It'll get heavy.
it'll get heavy real quick. So I think once we correct that, and I think Mr. Zlotz brings up a good point about I think we need to look at a front elevation, work with staff to get that retaining wall opening aligned with how you're going to go into the house, and maybe that front door shifts a little bit to make that work a little bit, but that may affect your column spacing too. We talked about the window placement. I'm still in questions I'm not discussing. Columns. What's that? Yeah. So, I think one of I guess this is a comment, I'll address that later, but I think everything else looks good. I think it's a nice little project, and I think the bones are there. We just need to make a few little tweaks. Any other comments of the applicant? So I'm on a schedule. Okay. You have a few minutes to summarize any comments of the questions or anything that you'd like to say in summary, and then we're going to close the public hearing.
No, thank you guys. I'm just, I'm honored and ready to do another project, add to Ybor, the historic area. Thank you guys for all your input, and I appreciate it. And I'll work with staff to make all those changes, and that's it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. We can have discussion amongst ourselves on any of these items.
I like it. I like how you suggested for the second floor. That really balances it out, I think.
Overall, project I think is good. I think there were some discrepancies in the drawings that we've worked through. I know I'm a little slow today because I know everyone's busy. Everyone's busy right now, and I've been burning the midnight oil a little bit too. So I've been a little slow today, but yeah, just fixing up some of the windows, the banding around the building, making sure he works with staff to make sure that entry off of the sidewalk so that he doesn't dump into the middle of a column. I think once we fix those big items, I think the project will be good. I think he's worked well with a very tight lot.
I think the project is well-intentioned, but I do believe that there's not enough information here between the comments that we have and the inconsistencies in the drawings, that it really is only, in my opinion, ready for preliminary approval. And we should see the final drawings and the final solutions to the concerns we have.
Okay. Yeah, I think I understand where you're at. I think we made some recommendations. I think your biggest concern really is the placement of that retaining wall opening and how that aligns with that front facade, which is a critical element here.
Well, it's not just a matter of it's almost like he's presenting a symmetrical design for a historic feature that exists on the property that isn't symmetrical to the property. So I think with minimal intervention, the design should reflect that. Maybe it's not a full porch across the way. Maybe there's a enclosure. Maybe the porch relates to the proportion of the historic stoop. I mean, it's little details like that, especially on a small infill project. They're really grounded to the neighborhood and the historic fabric. So I'm not trying to be difficult. I just think that it's a real missed opportunity if we don't do that.
Okay.
Valid point.
And I think there's some other things that we talked about with the belt course being raised and lowering those windows on the front and rear. I think you guys noticed two of the windows on the side elevations are slightly different for the kitchen and the stairs. I think that's okay. I think the intermediate rail needs to be centered within that window. But to Mr. Gillette's point, this starts shifting over, and then it changes the whole proportion of that front elevation. Part of me says that's something that we can work with staff. Part of me, if it needs to come back in front of us, we just have a busy agenda. But if this is worth the time, I'm okay with that. So we've given the applicant a number of suggestions. Could be quick, fixed quickly. Could be.
If someone else wants to make a motion, for approval, that's fine. But I think it needs a preliminary.
You want it to come back?
I would personally like to see it come back, but I'm only one vote on the commission. So.
No, points valid.
I think it would be in your best interest to continue and then come back.
Okay.
I'm bringing lunch next time. It doesn't matter to me.
Like that. Okay. I mean, I would recommend you kind of bring it back.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one, but it's a tight site, and I think it's critical.
Would you like me to make the motion then?
Are you okay with
Or
that?
you can.
Continue to April. Yeah. For one month. Then you can work with Ron and clean it up. Yeah.
Okay, this is for
Okay.
it's for a preliminary approval.
And Kamaria Pettis-Malcolm from the City Attorney's Office, if you're going to do a motion for a preliminary approval, make sure that you give specific direction for the applicant in order to bring it back, when he brings it back, and then if staff can provide the next date, hearing date for a preliminary approval.
I mean, it's up to you, but I think
Mr. Vila.
I think it gives you more.
Can you
options
have,
if you
what's
just
the next date for the public hearing for a preliminary approval if that motion is approved?
Can I just have one moment to speak?
Okay.
Talk to me.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
So what's going on is they're going to make a motion. They could make a motion to deny. They could make a motion to continue. They could make a motion to you still have to come back.
Okay.
So if you just request a continuance, you come back for the project as a whole. It's really it's up to you. You can want them to proceed, you can have them do that, or you can request a continuance.
Continuance, you have to do, all the mailings and all that stuff.
No, you just come back. You're already done.
Okay. All right. I'll go with continuance.
You want to do a continuance?
Yeah.
Okay. So the applicant is requesting a continuance, and that date would be to the April 26, 2022 public hearing. Is that correct?
Yes, was that April 26th,
Yeah, that's the next
22?
one. Yeah, that's the next one.
And I guess, am I able to address me at 90 point? No? Okay, all right.
We'll work with you.
Okay. So, move to grant a continuance in case BLC 22-79 for the property located at 2205 North 12th Street to the, what was the date? April 26th? Public hearing at 9 a.m.
I'll second.
All in favor of said continuance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more cases on our schedule, and we're 1 minute overdue. We're adjourned. Thank you.
1 minute over.
We owe you lunch.